Welcome to Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup. I'm your host, Jason Bland, and we have a guest tonight. Hopefully all in good. I heard from him the other day. You should be here. Oh, it's been rough last couple months with just trying to get guests, and I had one that got sick twice, and another cancel on me, another no-show. It's like, oh, I love doing the open lines, getting to talk to you guys. You guys are such a great community. It's great to talk to you, but I do want to talk about people and their ideas and their books. And tonight we have Dr. Adam Rizvi. I believe I got that right. His book is Love Does Not Know Death: Stories of Death, Dying, and the Miracles of True Forgiveness. He's a critical care physician who's worked in the ICU, and he kept a death journal over the years of all these different deaths. Now that sounds morbid or creepy, but it's his way of dealing with it because you get close to people and families when you're a critical care physician like Dr. Adam Rizvi. And he also noticed a lot of miraculous, what we call paranormal, these events. And I tell you guys, my favorite thing on this show, I mean, all the ghost stories, UFO sightings, Bigfoot stuff that people tell me when they know I do this show. But the things that people share with me are these, when someone passes they love and how they come to them after they're passing, or some of, I think, the most touching stories and the ones I feel most honored to hear. This is kind of similar in that he's there at their moment of death, and sometimes things happen. The doorway opens. And miracles happen. Strangeness happens. I think a lot of people have experienced this when they've lost a loved one. And I think it's going to get pretty deep tonight. And I'm so excited to have Dr. Adam Rizvi on to talk about his book, Love Does Not Know Death. Of course, lots of weird in the World Wide Web of weird, and we will take your phone calls later in the show. A lot to get to, so let's go ahead and get rolling on into it. Welcome to another night of Paranormal Soup. As I said before, I'm your host, Jason Bland. And yes, I told you guys I would tell you when the episode would air where I went. You guys have been watching the show. I went out to Seattle for the History Channel to film an untitled cryptid. It's that episode. I said, I don't do anything. It's not a cryptid story. I told them about my shadow person experience. I didn't hear anything. They didn't tell me, but I guess the episode did air. And on Monster Quest, they brought back Monster Quest. Gil Sanchez already had his episode. We had him on to talk about his Goatman encounter. But I guess my episode airs. I don't have cable, and I can't watch it. A couple of friends of mine I've seen have watched it. I got notified by Linda Kelly. Thank you. And Jamie, my beautiful co-host, how you doing? You had another person notify me. She tried tagging me, let me know, too. Was it Donna?
It was Donna.
Yeah, they also saw it. But I had no idea. That they aired the episode. As far as I know, if you have the Hulu Live subscription, it was on there live and probably can watch for a period of time. But that's like $90 a month, man.
History Channel, not the regular History Channel app. It's a different History Channel.
Well, the name of the episode's called Grave Mistakes. I'm one of, I think, 2 or 3 stories in it. I'm the first story, I guess, I've been told. Grave Mistakes, I like the title. They show, I saw the graphic they put up there for the episode, and that graphic's for my story. They use AI, I've been told. I have not gotten to see it, but you see the back of somebody's head with long hair. That's supposed to be teenage me on a set of tracks, and that's my story where my shadow person experience began. I'll let you know when I get to see it. I don't know. I'll find a way somehow. I know my mom has been trying to find a way to watch it. We'll figure it out. And, any legal way I can tell you how to watch it. I'm not going to tell you how to pirate it. I can't do that. You can figure that out on your own. All right, we got a guest. We should have a guest tonight, and we got weird as usual for the World Wide Web of Weird. So I guess we should go ahead and get rolling into the World Wide Web of Weird. Tonight on the World Wide Web of Weird, I thought I'd start off this story because my wife was like, did you know trees could explode? This was all over my timeline with the frigid, frickin' damn frickin' cold weather here. I'm in Michigan City, Indiana, right on Lake Michigan. Well, I'm not right on. I'm not rich. I'm away from it. I can't see it, but I'm close enough to feel its lake effect snow. It's been cold, but I guess a lot of people have been having exploding trees. This is the winter story, I guess, right now. The exploding trees. I got some video footage. If you didn't know, trees can explode. For those listening on the Paranormal Soup radio network on the Talkstream Live Paranormal Radio app, we are a webcast streaming out live to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. If you want to come watch, I do always have videos. Sometimes, this time I do, of an exploding tree, if you've never seen that. All right, let me get that up here, and I got to, mute it probably right away. Article 1. Yeah, me. All right, we'll get to the exploding tree here. All right, if you happen to have been strolling through picturesque woodlands in America's Midwest or northern plains this week, you might want to avoid standing too close to the trees. This is because cold weather has brought with it an unusual phenomenon known as frost cracking that can cause tree trunks to literally burst outward like an explosion. According to meteorologist Max Velocity, is that his real name? Are meteorologists being like rappers now? They're just going to make up some fake names and be some cool Max Velocity. Okay. States particularly at risk of this right now include Minnesota, Michigan, Wisconsin, North Dakota, and South Dakota, as well as parts of Iowa and Illinois. Why not Indiana? I guess we don't have the right trees. The phenomenon occurs when sap and water inside the trunk freeze, causing the interior of the trunk to expand and push outward. Now, we have the same kind of trees against the bark until it suddenly and catastrophically gives away. The resulting fracture can occur so violently that its sounds often resemble a gunshot going off. Problem is particularly prevalent right now as parts of North America have been subjected to extreme cold, with temperatures in some states pushing as much as 30-degree weather temperatures. And then, of course, you have, people saying that, this is totally man-made and, weather modification. Right, Jamie? Probably. Damn, okay. You hear that? Whew.
Yeah.
Imagine if you're standing next to that thing, man. That would suck.
Do it again. I didn't mean to talk over it.
Yeah. Sorry. Hold on. Let me go back. There we go. It's not going all the way back. I don't know what's going on. Oh, that's the volume. I'm not even on the right thing. Not even on the right thing. Is this it? Where's the rewind button? That's the volume. Oh, it's here. Okay, sorry. I suck at this. Here we go. Heard that, right?
It sounds like a baseball, like someone hitting a ball.
Yeah. But yeah, didn't know trees could explode. No, I actually didn't know that. I had heard that before. But it seemed to be very much the story that the way the winter came in pretty rough. I think it's just, I know people are, I definitely believe weather modifications happen. I definitely believe, I think there's plenty of evidence. There's that Substack lady, Meow, something, I can't think of her name right now, that's proven who's doing it in her area. But it's also been like overdue for like a horrible winter here, at least for us. Like
Yeah.
really
But we
overdue.
have the permits, and Dane Wilmington, or how you say his last name, at geoengineeringwatch.org has all the proof. They show you how fast the stuff turns to ice and the way they're actually doing it.
All right, we'll move on. That's what I'm saying. I definitely believe they're doing it, but I'm just saying also at the same time,
At the same time,
we're kind
yeah,
of overdue. We're definitely overdue for a bad winter storm. All right, so I've heard plenty of stories being a paranormal investigator, people getting phantom knocks at their door. There's plenty of people have had that experience. Well, there's this one, phantom knocker flummoxes New Zealand cops. It's not just one person experiencing it, but multiple people. Thought this was an interesting story. I have the Tim Binnell article from Coast to Coast, but this is the original one. Mystery knockers vanish into the Dunedin night. Cops in New Zealand community were left scratching their heads after receiving multiple calls about an eerie phantom knocker frightening residents. According to a local media report, the curious case began on Tuesday evening in the city of Dunedin when a woman staying at a motel phoned police about an unsettling incident that had just occurred. Hearing an inexplicable knock on her ground floor window, the caller explained she looked outside and spotted a stranger crouching near the ground. Understandably unnerved by the visitor, she unleashed a scream that sent a creepy individual running. Usually, if this is a ghost or something, they don't look. That does not how it goes down. Officers dispatched to the motel subsequently searched the area and found no signs of the phantom, who seemingly only getting started that evening. Around the 10 minutes after that motel incident, Dunedin police received another call from a homeowner with an equally troubling report. According to the resident, they were startled by the sound of knocking inside their house. Upon going to investigate the situation, the homeowner spotted a pair of shadowy figures. Now we got multiple people running away from the open back door of the residence. Once again, cops searched the neighborhood, but the phantoms were long gone. The weirdness continued later that evening when a worker at a vape shop phoned police about a similarly strange incident. In this instance, the store received an unexpected knock at the door, followed by a loud banging as the employee went to answer it. Once again, when the worker looked for who it or what could have been behind the mysterious moment, there was no one to be found. The proverbial cat and mouse game ended there as police received no further reports of the phantom knockers, who one hopes were merely bored teenagers pranking people. I would love this story to be like they're people are getting knocks and it's a ghost, but everything that pinpoints to this, especially being the last one, it's like these kids got done for the night and then where did they go? They went to the vape shop. You know what I'm saying? Everything points to it being teenagers. I hate to say it, especially with the way it, the last place they went was the vape shop. But it's like, now with TikTok and these videos and Instagram, these pranks are more up and about because you can people make content. I wouldn't be surprised if this is somebody's video content. Like, we're going to go ninja tonight and knock on people's windows and freak them out. Well, you get how you get shot, man. Do that here in America, you'll get shot. I'm not joking. They can do that stuff in England or wherever the heck that was. New Zealand, sorry. Do that here in America, you're going to get shot.
Unless you're in California, because they are doing it around our neighborhood, and you wouldn't believe how lenient some of these neighbors are. Even when they have people climbing over their fences, they're like justifying and making excuses for why they're getting robbed. It's so California.
Wow. Yeah. No, I don't know. Here in Indiana, you get shot. All right, next up. I was watching this video tonight with my wife of these three grandmothers doing psychedelic mushrooms for the first time. I was thinking about, I had this article as well. Mushrooms that make the brain see little people. I found this so interesting, is shared hallucinations. You hear about the DMT elves, that people get. When people do DMT, they have these, like, a lot of people describe like these, what they call DMT elves or whatever, But there's also this certain mushroom people can take where they see little people. Where you'll see little people. Well, how does that happen? How does it give you a specific plant give you a specific kind of hallucination? Imagine sitting down with a steaming bowl of mushroom soup. Yuck. I love paranormal soup. I don't love mushroom soup, I'll tell you that. And suddenly you are joined by a brigade of tiny people parading across the table. No, your brain hasn't been quantum entangled with Gulliver's Travels. You've just met a real fungus that reliably summons little Puchin hallucinations. Little Putin? Did I say that? Little Putin? No, I don't know. This is by the way, this is a Coast to Coast but it doesn't say who wrote it. The culprit is a mushroom called the Lamoa Astica, as I say it, a woodsy relative, the Porci treasured for the porcini. How do you say it? I am not a mushroom person, obviously. I don't like mushrooms. Treasured for the richness in parts of Asia, the China's Yunnan province, people know to cook it thoroughly before eating. Leave it undercooked, and you might start seeing literally little people. Doctors and local hospitals treat hundreds of such cases each year, with patients reporting pint-sized elves crawling over the walls or marching under doors. What makes this species scientific gold is that these hallucinations are remarkably consistent across different individuals and cultures. So it's not just, it's this worldwide phenomenon. Anywhere in the world, people could see it. Oh, I lost my Facebook stream. Give me 1 second. God bless it. It does this once in a while with Facebook. So anybody, I'm sorry. I have to relaunch it, I think. Yeah, I have to remove it and start a new one for Facebook. Sorry, give me 1 second, guys. I got to just noticed this, so that's like half my audience there. I was wondering why it's so low. It's because Facebook's being stupid. All right, so now I have to add.
What I said.
All right, we want Facebook. Okay.
They're not too keen on me.
Save
and
changes.
My talk.
All right, hopefully we'll be live here in a second on Facebook. I apologize. It does this once in a great while where it just kicks Facebook off. Hopefully we're back live on Facebook. I shared that out, and now that link's crap, and I had to relaunch a new one. Hopefully people are seeing this on Facebook or will soon. Which maybe if I get a second, a commercial break, I'll reshare that out. Always know, go to the Facebook page or go to YouTube if we somehow shut down on there, because YouTube seems to be the most reliable. But isn't it, like I said, they talk about, I don't want to run out of time about the DMT elves and all this, but they did the study to see, how many people consistently see little people, and it's very consistent. It's like also the guy that does, I think it's DMT for that. I don't know what drug he's doing, where he has, the laser on the wall and people see, the Matrix code.
I haven't
That's
seen
another
that.
one where people share the same hallucination. It requires a laser, but he does not prompt anybody by telling them what they're going to see when they look into the laser. They don't look into the laser, I should say. We'll look into the light shining on the wall from the laser. But what does that mean? If the brains share these shared hallucinations, are people actually maybe tapping into seeing another reality? It's more than just hallucination. Right. That's what people say with the DMT elves. Is that the same for the little people? Are there little people around us now?
That it's actually allowing us to see what we don't normally see. And then I think,
right.
Well, do the cats see it? Do they just ignore it?
Oh, it's back. Thank you, Anthony. Sorry. I just saw Anthony's comment saying he's from Facebook. Thank you. Yeah, sorry about that, Anthony. If it went down for anybody watching on Facebook, hopefully they find it. I don't know why it does that. But yeah, the shared hallucination stuff. One of my favorite movies, and I get picked on for this, is Altered States. Doing the isolation tank and a bunch of, I don't know what kind of drugs he was doing, peyote or some kind of drug. I don't know. DMT, I don't know. But I love that movie. All right, moving on. I am too old for that crap, by the way. I am no way. I saw those old ladies doing that in that video today, and was thinking about this article, and I was like, yeah, my days of that crap are over. This was these ladies' first time. I suspect one old lady, it wasn't her first time. No, she lied. But I'm just like, I at 46, I would not touch a damn hallucinogen of any kind. Those days are long gone for me, man. All right, next up. I thought this was interesting, especially for our kind of topic tonight with our Dr. Adam Rizvi. I got to get that last name right. Being in the critical care and ICU. This is not that it's totally the same or anything, but this is a story that's come out from the Freedom of Information Act, I believe, kind of similar or whatever in, in Britain. The NHS calls in exorcists at hospital haunted by ghostly girls in a red dress. So this is newly unearthed email from the British Hospice reveals how the facility's chaplain reached out to an exorcist about staff concerns over paranormal activity. A surprising message was sent in August of 2023 and came to light this week via Freedom of Information request from the Telegraph. The email, the chaplain for the Priscilla Bacon Lodge Hospice in Norwich wrote to a representative from the Church of England regarding the facility's impending move to a new building. After detailing the concluding ceremonies in preparation for leaving the location, the writer requests your prayer concerning a rather unusual issue that had arisen at the site. It's been a difficult time, the chaplain explained. I am currently awaiting advice support from the deliverance team regarding some paranormal incidents which have been really upsetting staff. Although the specific nature of the strange events was not revealed in the email, anonymous individuals at the facility indicated to the Telegraph that many workers believe the building to be haunted by a ghost of a little girl in a red dress. The deliverance team mentioned in the message is a group of Church of England ministers tasked with performing rituals to exorcise spirits from possessed people or places. Also, the church officials' response to the email was not released in the FOI request, leaving one to speculate as to how they reacted to the odd situation. That said, a subsequent update penned by the chaplain indicated that I am in conversations with members of the deliverance team, which is aiding in the care and ministry I am offering. To that end, the circumstances surrounding the timing of the message might indicate that staff members were concerned about what would become of the site's resident spirits once they move to a new building. Yeah, I mean, we watched the show. My wife and kids like the show called School Spirits, and it's about these kids trapped in a high school, and they just found out in this episode, spoiler, sorry, that their school's going to be shut down. So the ghost kids that are at the school are going to be screwed. You know what happens when a building, the ghosts have been around people there, or whatever, especially in a hospice care, and then it becomes an abandoned, shut down building. If they're ghosts like that, I hope it's not like that. All right. Next up, Bigfoot encounter. Man, I'm running behind. Get moving here. I'm going to run out of time here quick. I got former Marine reports Bigfoot encounter at a restricted military base. This is from the Bigfoot Field I got to get it right. Bigfoot Field Research Organization has a great page. Former Marine, this comes from them. Former Marine, but I got Tim Binnell's article here. Comes forward with a remarkable account of encountering a suspected Sasquatch in a restricted military base. The compelling incident revealed in a recent report to the Bigfoot Field Research Organization occurred in the summer of 2005 at Quantico, Virginia, as witness Andrew Bird participated in a field training exercise at a mock urban environment close to the public. One evening, and two other Marines were ordered to exit the location, travel through the woods to pick up a vehicle approximately 500 to 700 meters away. While making the normally routine trek, Bird recalled the trio stumbled upon something that still mystifies him to this day. As the group was walking through the woods, they heard a loud cracking sound and turned their flashlights towards the area to see what caused the commotion. To their consternation, the Marines observed two trees next to each other bending towards one another. Looking up to see what was responsible for the weird display, they spotted a large hairy creature with its back facing us, seemingly pulling the two trees together. Marveling at the mystery, interloper must have had significant strength to pull off such a feat. Bird described the figure as being around 8 feet tall with a large body covered in brown or reddish-brown hair. Chillingly, the witness noticed that its proportions and movements did not resemble a human. The presence of the monstrous figure sent the three Marines running towards the location of their pickup vehicle, sparking something of a pursuit by the creature as they heard a loud thud and sound of something large coming after them in the woods. The group eventually made it back to safety. The story that Bird mused has stayed with me for 20 years. I've never encountered anything before or since that explains what we saw that night. You know, some people say the military knows about Bigfoot. And these guys are trained military guys, and they ran. I'm just saying. They didn't try to be all, let's take it down or whatever. They ran because they see something that's out of their perception of reality. And that's what the mind does, even for trained soldiers, I think. All right. We're going to run out of time here. Oh, yeah. We'll get this one out of the way. Oh, Elon Musk wants to talk about aliens again. I wonder why. I'm sorry. Elon Musk shares his current thoughts on aliens and consciousness. Deep Thoughts by Elon Musk. Well, Elon Musk is regarding something of a controversial figure these days. Epstein Files. Like him or loathe him, when he speaks, people try to take note, especially when it concerns his space exploration goals. Speaking at a panel with BlackRock CEO Larry Fink at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. Of course, that's where all the big talk happens, right? Musk suggested that we were perhaps better placed than anyone else to find evidence of extra life. What did he say? Musk suggested that he was perhaps better placed than anyone else to find evidence of extraterrestrial life on Earth. That said, however, he remains skeptical of the likelihood of it actually happening. We have 9,000 satellites up there, and not once have they had to maneuver around an alien spaceship, he said. I don't know. Bottom line is we need to assume that life and consciousness is extremely rare, and it might only be us. That's what he usually goes to, that line. Is he wants, it's only us. We got to get out there. We got to get to Mars. I never wanted. I turned down the Epstein. No, you begged like a little bitch to go to Epstein's Island. Screw you. Seriously. Sorry. I think he knows something. Honestly, do. I think he knows a lot. Doesn't say. I wouldn't trust him. He's got military contracts. Why would he tell us?
Who, Elon?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, think
about it. Revealing aliens have been here the whole time. We have all this technology. That would give a push to us to go more into space, right? But maybe it wouldn't. Or maybe it would take what he has already built and completed as obsolete if the real good stuff got released. I don't know. But he doesn't seem to be a fan for it. And all those friends at the World Economic Forum in Davos will thank them for this last article. Doomsday clock closer to midnight than ever before as scientists issue sobering warning. And we just had this article months and months and months ago, but it wasn't that long ago, about them moving the clock forward. And now they're doing it again.
It's usually once a year, but I think this one's coming really soon.
Half a year, really soon. Mm-hmm. I feel like we just did this. Maintained by the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists, 1947. Doomsday clock is, well, we already know what it is, but they basically moved it forward. Let's see here. What do we got? I was going to find the time because we're out of time here. Speaking of, a half a second or something like that? One more forward?
Yeah, whatever, like a shave of a second closer to midnight.
I don't disagree with them. That's the sad part. Things aren't great. Things are not great between people in the world, and those people over at the Davos and the World Economic Forum meetings having their enlightened conversations while they screw everybody pretty much in the world. Yeah, screw them. That's it for the World Wide Web of Weird. Our guest tonight is Dr. Adam Rizvi. I'm going to get that right. Rizvi. He is the author of Love Does Not Know Death, Stories of Death, Dying, and Miracles of True Forgiveness. I am really excited about this guest tonight. We're going to talk about his new book that's out. You can find it. Jamie will have the links in the chat room tonight. And I'm so excited to eventually have a guest again. Thank you. Let's open all. This after we come back from this short commercial break.
You were brought here for one purpose, necromancy.
A ceremony dating back to the pre-Christian era. It's the art of reviving the dead. It requires involvement with evil spirits by the person performing the act.
The devil god brings life to the dead.
No, please. No, please, no.
And death to the living. Necromancy. Starring Orson Welles and Pamela Franklin. From Cinerama releasing. In color, rated PG, parental guidance suggested.
If you are interested in discovering the truth about the paranormal and want to hear from leading researchers in the field, join Justin Brown on his 3 weekly shows named My Paranormal Soapbox, Necromancer Live Show, and the Supernatural Symposium, live on Facebook, YouTube, and InterfaceDeath.net.
He is conducting an experiment into the combined effects of sensory deprivation and hallucinatory drugs. The subject of the experiment is himself, and the experiment is out of control. Ken Russell's Altered States, a film that must not be missed, is in the West End now. Altered States, Certificate X.
Hello, I am Fernando Martinez. I think by now you know I am an emotional kind of guy. People stop me in the street and say, Fernando, what the hell is wrong with me? Silk shirt, hairy chest, enough aftershave to drown a household pet, but I still cannot get a woman. I tell them you are an ignorant fool. Without a symbol of power and fertility around your neck, what kind of woman is going to respect you? That is why I have teamed up with Medallion Man, the shop for medallion needs. Medallion Man caters to all levels of masculinity. For the strong, silent type, a medallion the size of a hubcap will say everything that needs to be said. Even singing medallions for the Casanova, who knows music is the food of love. Model trains, dollhouses, diapers, whatever your interest, we've got a medallion for you. Don't forget, every woman knows if you can't support a medallion, you can't support a family.
This is the sound of a space clock aboard a U.S. satellite 180 miles above the Earth. No one winds up this timepiece. It's powered by a tiny battery, a battery that delivers power for years without replacement. Now the same type of battery, the Duracell battery, can bring new reliability and long life to your battery-operated equipment. Radios, cameras, toys, all run far longer. Duracell batteries, the long-distance power cells, outlast any ordinary battery. The same type of battery that keeps space clocks running for years can bring long life to anything powered by batteries. Dura, as in durable. Cell, as in power cell. The Duracell battery, made by Mallory.
Switch to DCS ranging.
240, nominal to profile.
We're in the pipe. 5 by 5.
Tonight on Paranormal Soup, our guest is Dr. Adam Rizvi. He is the author of Love Does Not Know Death, Stories of Death, Dying, and Miracles of True Forgiveness. Dr. Adam Rizvi is a critical care physician and neurologist who works bridges medicine and non-dual wisdom. Author of Love Does Not Know Death, he draws from years in the ICU and decades of contemplative study to show how forgiveness transforms fear into peace. He lives in California, where he teaches, writes, and co-hosts the podcast Letters to the Sky. I'm starting to just get into the book. I really haven't had not a lot of time this week, but I've been really excited about this guest because I think death, everybody at some point is going to experience losing a loved one. It's just a matter of the life we live, this journey we're on. And I hope for most of you, you have to wait a long time before you go through it. But it's also, as hard as it can be, it can be a beautiful thing too at times. And I know that sounds weird or hard, for people to hear that, but it can be. It's something special in that moment that happens. You can feel it. I believe it's the spirit of God in the room when these moments happen. And the way our loved ones come back to us and let us know that they're all right. Like I've told you guys, those are my favorite stories to hear. Well, Dr. Adam Rizvi has experienced some unusual things as a critical care physician in the ICU. We're going to talk about that tonight. And we'll open up the phone lines later in the show. We got a lot to get to, so let's go ahead and get to our guest. All right, let's bring him out of the waiting room. How you doing tonight? Let's see. It's delayed joining, or is it? Oh, no, it's because there we go. I am out of touch on this. How you doing tonight, Dr. Adam?
Hey, doing well. Good to see you, Jason.
Yeah, it's an honor to have you on the show. Like I said, just started to get into the book, but I know I'm going to truly love it because I love these stories. I think, I don't know if you heard my intro here, but, for me, I feel very lucky in life. I haven't lost a lot of people close to me, but I lost somebody who I felt very close to, was my grandmother from Alzheimer's. And I feel very gifted, with the fact that she was able to show her presence to me on the day of her wake. to let me
Oh,
know she was
wow.
all right. And I like I say I tell people all the time, one of the biggest gifts of doing this show is when people find out I do it, they open up to me about these kind of experiences. And my favorite ones are usually around the ones where a loved one has passed, and the way they've come back, or in that moment of passing, has showed them that they're going to somewhere better.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot that happens right before death and after death. And most people I know have had really transformative experiences around the death of a loved one. Their life takes a totally different direction. They themselves feel transformed. Obviously, there's a lot of pain. Most of us go through huge amounts of pain
Yeah.
and suffering, which you said right before we joined. And I agree with you 100% with everything that you said about some of the wild things that happens, but also this idea of the spirit of God being in the room. Something special happens in those rooms where I've seen people die. Something's there.
Yeah, and I've heard it from countless people, and I mean, you've heard it from way more people and experienced it. And that's why I'm really excited about having you on tonight in this book. I don't know where you want to start with the audience tonight. I tell them how this journey really began for you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting. So I actually did not go into this. I didn't go into medicine. How do I put this? I think most people might assume that I went into medicine as a staunch materialist, that I was, the scientist, the neurologist, and then later on discovered all these amazing things. It's actually the other way around. I grew up in a pretty spiritual household, and to me it was a given that life goes on after the death of the body, that there's more to life than the physical. That was my framework going into medicine. And a lot of the medical journey, I felt like I was going into the belly of the beast. I was going into a world where all of my colleagues believe that the body is this complex biochemical machine, and that's all that you are. And when it dies, when the machine stops working, it's over for you. And there's nothing, it's oblivion. There's nothing else after that. And it was hard to work inside of that. But I started to realize more and more physicians, more and more nurses, I'd say far more nurses than physicians, actually agree that there is something that does live on after the death of the body. And it sort of makes you wonder if, and the stats show this, if the majority of people, if you were to poll most Americans or the people, the world population, most believe in the continuation of life after the death of the body. I would say most nurses do. I would say most scientists don't. Most physicians probably don't. But if the case is that we're treating patients, they're the ones going through this, at the very least, even if you don't believe in an afterlife, you should learn how to relate to someone who does and help them, guide them through probably the most important moment of their lives in a way that feels supportive. That should be the bare minimum of what we expect of our colleagues.
Well, I would hope a doctor wouldn't be like, no, there's nothing. It's all black. I'm a nihilist. What are you talking about? I hope no doctor has that kind of bedside manner. I mean, that would be horrible.
Yeah. The other thing that started all of this for me was when I had my first few deaths as a trainee, it felt like, when something really, I don't know, do you have a journal, Jason? Do you journal? Do you write?
I have written. Yes, I have gone back and forth over a long period of many years, writing back and forth. But I wouldn't say I'm a journaler. I like to write in tangents.
Yeah. I actually very similar. The days that you decide to write, usually it's because something big happened, right? Like some aha, some realization, something you just want to capture for the future. Something like that happened for me with the first few deaths. I felt like I had gotten to know someone really profoundly for days to weeks. I knew their family. I knew all of them by name. I knew their dynamics, and you get to know families in the ICU over time. Only to have this person that you're caring for die. And I was so surprised at how much it affected me emotionally that I decided, you know what, let me just write this down. Let me just capture this, one, to help me process this, but also to honor this person who died.
Right.
So that was the beginning of what soon became my death journal. And I decided, let me honor every patient that I am physically present with the moment they take their last breath. And the moment they die, the moment their heart rate turns to 0. Let me capture that. And so I'd be there. The moment would occur, the transition, and I'd walk to my office as soon as I could, and I'd start writing everything that led up to their death, what their disease was, how their body broke down, the dynamics of their family, and how they died, and anything I experienced. At first, I thought, okay, this is going to be a way to honor these patients. I have over 500 entries now.
Wow.
And over the years, some genuinely wild things have happened at these deathbeds. This is weird stuff. But beyond just the odd, strange, mind-blowing paranormal stuff that happens, the other major theme that sort of crept up in my journal was how much of an opportunity this was for people to heal.
Yeah.
Because so many families are like broken. They don't spend time with each other, or they're estranged, or they don't talk to each other, and they're in different states or different continents. And then their dad is about to die. And then everyone comes out of the woodworks, and they're meeting people that they've never seen, or that people they haven't seen for years. It could be people that they hate. It could be family members they never want to talk to again. Those are such precious moments for these family members to heal. And I've seen opportunities totally squandered, but I've also seen families with deeply buried hatchets completely heal traumatic childhoods in the moment of someone's passing. And I just felt like people need to understand that these moments are huge opportunities for healing.
That's what I say. They're opportunities, and either you take it or you don't. And we've all kind of, everybody's been part of this in their own family dynamics and seen this. When a death happens in the family, I can either bring people or tear them apart. I've seen it. I've definitely seen like matriarchs. I swear, the women of families, that some women become, like I call them, matriarchs, and they hold this family together, and then they pass, everything just falls apart, And and then other people, like you said, long stuff, they would never talk, and then they come together and they talk. I've had that experience,
Yeah.
To me, the word people, I think, run from it a lot. Everybody's running from death in some sense. So you don't want to look at it. You don't want to talk about it. But in the end, I've always thought death cuts through bullshit. And I don't cuss on this show very often, but I've always said that it's what it does. It puts things in perspective. It brings your time, like, this is going to be me at some point. You have to face that.
100%. I was listening in right before the show and listening to some of the things you were sharing, and you're talking a little bit about the folks at Davos, and I couldn't agree more. There are people who are so obsessed with power and money, and if they took a few moments to really get that there will be a time where they won't be here, they will die. We all will die.
You're talking about rich buttholes that are putting a bunch of their money, I guarantee it, into transhumanism so they can live forever.
Longevity. Oh yes, yeah. That's a whole other conversation. Transhumanism, digital consciousness. We could go down that route, but I haven't seen that happen yet. I think, and whether it's even possible or not, I'm not sure.
Right.
But I can tell you this. I wonder sometimes if it's a defense mechanism, right? Because underneath that search is a profound fear. It's a profound fear. And they happen to have resources that you and I don't have. We express the fear by, in smaller ways. Like, I want a legacy. I want to, have a company that lives beyond me. I want kids that will remember my name. Like, I want to live on in the memories of others. That's a very simple laudable, I think, way to want to live on. These people have, billions, trillions of dollars, and they have grander things. But the premise is, I'm still afraid that I won't exist. I'm still afraid of death, and this is my way to seek immortality.
They make big penis rockets. I don't.
It makes me think of that clock tower that I think it's is it Soros that's building the 1,000-year anniversary clock. So when they become humanoids, every 100 years or so, they will fly down, and a new chamber will open, and it'll be like a time capsule of that era.
I haven't heard of that. That's interesting.
Yeah. How about just fix the planet?
That yes, please.
That'd be great.
Yeah, look up the
well, the Elon thing I covered. He is trying to. I will agree with his point that life is precious, and we got to treat this planet. And that he does say that part. I'll give him that. But at the same time, there's aliens.
Yeah, multi-planetary species. Yeah, I think that's the thing. Well, it takes a lot of courage to face that fear. It takes, and one of the things I talk about is, if anyone's going to use this opportunity as an opportunity healing, and I mean facing death, it takes a lot of courage to say, all right, yeah, this is happening. I'll tell you, I've seen the look on people's faces when they get a terminal diagnosis, like you have stage 4 lung cancer, you've got, or pancreatic cancer. That's a rough one. That's a rough way to go. With
that's what I mean. That's I was talking. I saw a matriarch of a family, and it was literally like, I mean, she wasn't blood relation to me, but I loved her to death too. And I watched, like, literally she gets the diagnosis and is dead days later.
Yeah.
It was that quick.
I'm just like, you sit there with someone like that, right? I've had to deliver that diagnosis. It's one of the hardest things to do. Any human to have to sit down, like, I have to tell you something that will absolutely shatter your life, and it's like you can't even apologize in advance for that, because you know already it's going to destroy potentially them and their family, but you have to do it, because they have to know. But I've seen people take that news and everything crumbles, and they go with and it's just sheer terror. But I've also seen people, and you could see it in their eyes, they look at death straight in the face. They're like, yep, all right, I'm going to die. This is it. And then they talk to their loved ones, and they tell them that they love them. And they get real, and they talk about, okay, I don't want this. I don't want these artificial tubes in my mouth and throat.
Yeah,
don't resuscitate me, which, by the way, you should always do with your family. Clarify those goals far in advance. But there's like this strength that I see some people have. They just own it, and they face death. That is a powerful place to be, and I think we can all get there, but it takes a lot of courage to face the fear first.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I'm an old man, I'll face it just fine, because that's what I've always thought to myself. If I'm an old man and my children are there and they've made it that far too, and all that's what I want. And if I get there, I'll face death happily. But as a parent, like now, if I got that, somebody should have many more years of life ahead of them, which happens. You have to give that diagnosis to somebody.
Yeah.
That should have many more years of life. That's hard. I mean, but I've seen it. I mean, I saw it with my wife's grandfather. I mean, went through World War II. He saw horrible, horrendous things. And he's a brave man. He was a very brave man, but he was scared up until almost the end. And then I think from what my father-in-law told me, he kind of accepted it, changed, But you could see, the fear. I mean, this is somebody who lived a long life. He lived a good life, but he still was afraid. It can happen to anyone.
Yeah.
Because
it's the unknown. It's the undiscovered country. You don't know. I mean, you can have all the faith you want in a religion. You can do all that. But when it comes down to the brass tacks, when your time and ticket is up, how faithful are you?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't blame you if you're not,
Because of my spirituality and my near-death experiences and things I've experienced, I'm not one bit scared. And I can see people when
I don't blame people if they are, though,
going to be worm food, it's lights out. They could be a little, unnerving because then it really opens. What is everything about? You know, all
Mm-hmm.
these things go through. My dad, he got his news when he was given his 5 weeks. The doctor didn't have the best bedside manner. It was pretty rough. But my dad showed the most bravery and strength through the whole thing. We had the family over and everything, and we followed every rule, you know, thing he wanted. We talked about everything down to how he would come back to me, like when he
Oh,
had.
wow.
I have the best proof of it and everything, and we talked about all those things. And he he caught me crying once, and I was laying on the couch. He flicks me in the head. He goes, I don't want to. I'm the one dying. I'm the one going through this. What? I don't want to see you cry. But to the very end, he was the strongest man.
Yeah. Wow. That sounds like you had a beautiful experience with your father and the role model of how to face death.
We got to be with him as he passed. Both my mom and I, we held his hands. You know, I saw the light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Seeing
To him.
lights and things around bodies. It's quite interesting. You know, I wonder sometimes if we took right now where we're at is we're sort of medicine, I should say. Medicine is sort of wondering, well, you know, is there an afterlife or not? A lot of our patients are saying they're having these near death experiences that they have a cardiac arrest, right? But they remember stories of things happening while their brain wasn't functioning. There's hundreds of thousands of anecdotes of these sort of stories. So the conversation is alive in the medical field. There's a question of like, what is consciousness? Yeah. I think eventually we're going to get to a place where we acknowledge that consciousness or awareness, which I like that word a little bit better, does in fact continue on after death. But here's my question. How would we be with each other if we took as a fundamental ground the fact that we will keep going on after the body dies, and that we're going to continue our journey of spiritual growth and evolution? It won't stop. It's just a transition point, a very important transition point. If we all accepted that was the ground premise, as physicians, as family members, we would say, all right, mom, dad, you're going through your transition. This is it. We're going to support you. And there'd be like this huge amount of loving care and support, not a loss, because we know that communication will continue. It'll be in a different form. We won't be able to verbally talk to each other, but like I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name. Like
Jamie.
you were Jeannie? Jamie, like Jamie, you were saying, you could still communicate with your dad. You agreed what the symbols would be. He probably showed himself to you in dreams and in feelings and intuitions that you had. I feel like these are forms of communication that we don't acknowledge, are legitimate, solid forms of communication. If that's our ground and we operate from that, then we can have a clear conversation. Yeah, make sure on the other side you tell me about XYZ. Let me know how it is. Stay in touch with me. And I feel we would train each other to actually communicate in that way before death. And this is where things like telepathy pop up and whatnot, like really honing our intuitional skills. I feel like there's a whole way we could reframe death as a society if that was our ground.
Oh man, I preach it, brother. See, I've talked about that on the show. You know, how we could, society could change, and I'm also a big believer in reincarnation too. I also think that could change society if people accepted the idea that not only that there's a life after, but you've done this before. In a sense. But put that aside, just the aspect of that this isn't just it. And that we're not really separated from our loved ones. There's a connection there afterward. I get kicked out of my own. Oh, did you do that, Jamie, by accident?
I went to mute myself.
You moved me. You moved me. How do I move myself back? It's weird. There we go.
Yeah.
But it's just if people truly accepted this. There was a horrible Netflix movie with Robert Redford what was it called? The Discovery.
Uh,
And in this movie, he's a scientist, and I say this is horrible because he's a scientist that proves scientifically that there's a life after. The premise of this movie is then everybody goes off and starts killing themselves. Do you
What?
see why I have a problem with this movie?
yeah, that's a big leap.
Right? Like, I don't think that's what would happen. I'm not saying, I mean, I don't think that's what would happen.
Mhm.
Would it? No, no. Now, I could see, you know, I could see, you know, people taking the idea, you know, let's say we proved scientifically like that.
Mhm.
There is a danger of society taking it too far. You know, the idea of not, you know, like euthanasia and stuff like that. You know, we're you know, because there is evidence of that happening in certain parts of the world where they're basically telling people, hey, you know, you don't have a chance. Let's just go ahead and Kevorkian in it, and that's it. I'm not trying to be you know, glib about it, but you know, I'm not a big fan of it.
Yeah.
And that's my worry. It's like, hey, I want to accept that life is, I believe there is more than after, but we also still got to fight for this life here and the preciousness of it, you know.
Well, I think people, like we said at the beginning of the show, I would say most people believe in an afterlife, but we don't see most people, you know, offing themselves. And I think
that's
most people.
You agree with me why I hated the movie.
Like they. I think people they have families and friends and relationships, and most of us want to hold on to those. And the reason why death is so painful is because we have to let those go in some form. But like we talked about earlier, the love that draws us and connects us, that keeps going. It's like the fundamental premise of the book, love does not know death, that when death occurs, that stays. That completely stays. That love stays and doesn't change.
My biggest spiritual event I had was I feel like I was saved by God. I just had this History Channel episode, I guess, air a Monster Quest of my experience. But I had this moment where I feel like this presence entered my room, saved me from this people would call it a demon. I don't know what you call it. It was attacking me for months. Long story short, I felt this overwhelming just peace, compassion, love, this presence that had no judgment on anything I'd done or even on this thing attacking me. It was just love. That's what I felt.
Wow.
And I've only felt that power and that presence one time really before, and it was when I saw a translucent boy walk into the full daylight lit room of my parents' house. The day I was moving out to go live with my soon-to-be wife. This little translucent boy walks up to me, smiles, and I felt that presence again. I wasn't scared that there's like a ghostly boy in my parents' house because, one, it was never haunted. And I just felt like I knew this kid, and I knew it, and he just faded away and was gone. Well, many, many years later, my son Liam's born, and he smiles when they hold him up to my wife after they deliver him. And I knew in that moment that is the boy, and he's now turned 10 on the 29th, and that he's that boy.
Does Liam have any memories? Any pre-birth memories?
Yes, he does.
Whoa.
He told my wife when he was 3 that he chose us. And then he's also named a battlefield in France. He was a German soldier in World War II, basically. I mean,
that is fascinating.
Yeah.
There's the University of Virginia, and Ian Stevenson in particular, as part of their Institute of Perceptual Studies, basically have been compiling cases of reincarnation or incarnational stories. And most of the time they try to validate it and cross-reference it if there are dates and names involved. I mean, if you're really interested, just dive into that work. That's a fascinating body of work.
Yeah, no, we've had guests on this subject. It's amazing. But the way that I think it connects to what you experienced in ICU is death is the end of that journey. If there's an afterlife or reincarnation, it's the end of that journey. And that moment when all the certain people are in that room, the people that are brought together in that moment for that family member or whatever, or friends, I always think some of those people in the room have to be part of this person's soul journey. There's always somebody there.
Yeah.
Like, and it could be your, it could be your daughter-in-law. It could be your, cousin. It could be somebody. It's not like, your mom or dad or your kids or whatever that you think would be the closest one. It could be somebody, I've seen this with people. There's a connection certain people have,
Yeah. I've seen, related to that, I've had, again, going through I went through all these entries as I was prepping to write this book, and I ended up seeing these themes. One of the major themes that I saw in all these journal entries was terminal lucidity, where patients would be comatose or unresponsive or very confused or basically non-communicative until a day before their death or hours before their death. And then they become super clear, like lucid. And I remember this one lady, she sat up and she wanted tea. And so we gave her tea, and she was just like sipping tea, having a regular conversation with her family. And like days before, this lady was out, like comatose, unresponsive. And here she's sitting up having very lucid, in-depth conversations about her finances. And she looks over to the left and she said, "Oh, Nana is telling me I'm going to miss my flight." And so
flight. I've heard this referred to several
transportation.
Times.
Like, I'm going to miss
like a
my
bus or
the
plane,
bus. Or,
train. You've gotten all those? Because I've heard these stories through the years.
I see the people looking up in the corners, and they keep looking up at something, like they're looking at somebody.
Yeah.
I didn't experience this personally, but this is a story told down through the family line by now she's deceased as well, aunt of mine. But she was at the nursing home where my grandfather, on my father's side, was when he passed away. He had dementia, and he didn't speak for like the last 2 years of his life. But she swears on the day he passed away, she did her usual routine of taking him to this window to look out just outside. She'd just take him to get some sun. And she heard him laugh, and she turned, and she heard him say, "Life's a joke," and then laughed again, and that was it. And then he died 2 hours later.
Wow.
After not speaking for 2 years. And I don't know why that's bothered me all this time. His just all that, not speak and be the last words, "Life's a joke."
Mm.
And then passed away.
Yeah, there's different ways to interpret that. Not sure where he came from with that phrase.
He's a man who went through a lot,
Yeah.
I know that. He had regrets, I know,
Yeah. After everything I've seen, I would say like the first 100 or so set of cases that really had paranormal stuff and pretty interesting things really caught my attention. And then it just sort of became the norm. It's like, oh yeah, all sorts of things happen around death. That happens quite often. And then that started to be less interesting for me. And the more interesting thing, the thing that really like lights me up right now, is being with a family that is absolutely torn apart. The room is filled with grief and sorrow and anger that God betrayed them, or God's taking their loved one away, or anger at each other,
You're right.
And just to be with them day in and day out, often not saying anything and just letting them express themselves, holding an intention for love, holding an intention for harmony, and sometimes asking them gently probing questions about, what are you feeling? What's going on? What if their loved one, this is a question I often ask. I tell them, listen, this is happening to their liver now. This is happening to their kidneys. Their organs are shutting down. Your dad's organs are shutting down. He's probably going to go in a couple of days. And then I'm sitting with, the son, the daughter, the wife, the extended family, and we're having this conversation. Someone's crying, someone's not, and just a mix of intense emotions. And then I ask them, if we had a chair right here for your dad, for your husband, and he was in his clearest state of mind, the most lucid state, what would he say about all this? What would he say? And oftentimes, as soon as I ask that, they know exactly what he would say. They know exactly what their loved one would say. They would say, "Let him go." Or he would say, "I'm sorry." Or he would say, "You don't need to do this." Or whatever the phrase is, usually it'll come out because they have an intuition about who their loved one, what they really cared about. And I'll tell you, most of the time, 100% of the time, the things that people care about when they're about to die, it's not money, it's not success, it's not power, it's not what you achieved. It's, did I spend enough time with my wife?
Yeah.
Did I spend enough time with my children? Did I go to their baseball games or go to their plays and recitals? Like, people genuinely value those kind of moments right before death as being the most precious moments in life.
Well, what else can you take with you if there is a continuation, which I do believe there is your experiences. You can't take anything else.
Yeah.
You can only take the time, the memories you have. Hopefully you do, you know. My one friend that I had, never believed in reincarnation, all that. And he's like, if you don't have your memories, what are you? Well, I think there's things that are ingrained in us. When you meet somebody, you've known them, that feeling. That connection when somebody passes, too, I think is just revealed more, like how strong you have the connection. My grandmother, when she passed, she had Alzheimer's, and, she couldn't recognize a lot of people, but she would recognize me. I know she did, because she would just say, "My beautiful boy," and just what she'd say. And then it was the day of her wake. I was in the in this bathroom at my work. I work retail, and I'm steaming this piece of clothing. And I had to go to her wake after I got off. And I get this weird feeling. I look, and the mirror turns black. And it's almost like I see this little candlelight glow inside the mirror. I'm like, what is the hell going on? And I see my grandmother's face. And she smiles at me, and then she's gone. I'm like, I need a break. And I go out to tell people on my floor, and they come. One of them comes rushing up to me. "Oh, my God, something weird happened." They all swear some big wind went through the store, even though the door was closed. At the same time, I saw her.
Wow.
And at that time, my biggest worry is, like, was she confused at that moment of death? Like, did she know she passed, with Alzheimer's? I mean, it's horrible to watch somebody go that way. And that was, I think, me and my mother's biggest, like, worry. I'd have nightmares of her, like, gasping for breath, like I saw her doing in the end.
Yeah, yeah.
And then her being confused and, like crying and stuff like that. I think it was all my subconscious, but I think her coming through to me in awake state was her way of letting me know I'm fine.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I do feel like, well, I don't have science to back this up. It's just purely my own intuition of things. But I've also seen terminal lucidity with end-stage Alzheimer's, where it's so severe they can't talk, they don't recognize anyone, and then hours before they go, all of their memories come back, and they're having clear conversations. So How is
that possible? How is that possible? I watched my grandmother hold up a spoon to me and go, "I can't tell you what this is." I watched her deteriorate. What I'm saying? But I've heard these stories of people. It didn't happen to my grandmother. They were sadly giving her Valium at the nursing home, which was like the worst thing you could give to a Alzheimer's patient. And she declined so quickly once we put her in a nursing home. It was horrible. But I've heard the stories from others about their grandparent, whatever, having this sudden, like right before death, like my grandfather just finally speaking after 2 years,
Wow.
But more than that, having like whole conversations, like you said, their memories are all back. I'm like, how does that happen?
Yeah. If we say that consciousness is a byproduct of neurons firing, then it doesn't make sense, because the neurons are not working. So how are they able to do this? But if we say that consciousness or awareness is independent of the physical body, independent of the brain, and not produced by it, then it's possible, because it doesn't need the brain to
Well, it'd be interesting to see. I hate that there's a part of me would love to like hook up the electrodes on somebody there and see, what's going on there, because that brain shouldn't be functioning like that for them to be talking at final moments. I mean, I've heard of people like that too, like suddenly that haven't been able, consume food or whatever, their body's dying, and then they suddenly get up and they're walking around and want to eat their favorite dinner and all that stuff and talking like everything's fine. It's almost painful, I would think, for the family. Some of them people suddenly have hope, like, oh, they're getting better, and then that's it. It's the final meal, it's the final get together, and that's it.
I have seen that too. Yeah. Well, see, wouldn't this be amazing if we if we could talk about this openly, when I used to live in Arizona, I worked with I worked in the ICU over there, and we had a very, very proactive chaplaincy service who would go to patients who were dying, and they'd work with them and they'd comfort them, regardless of what their religion. They would do it in a non-dogmatic way. And they had a booklet that I got to help contribute to, but they had it already before I even came on as an ICU doctor. And the booklet guided family members and patients through the dying process. And they mentioned things like you may have visitations, you may hear voices of people who have passed away.
That's awesome.
You may your loved one might wake up and have a conversation with you, even though they're comatose. Like, I liked that. I think that's
great.
We should do more of that.
Accept that. Accept that these are the things that happen to people. As a medical field, you can't explain it, but you have to accept this is what happens. These things happen. You're all witnesses to it all the time.
Yeah.
You can not believe in an afterlife all you want, but this is still the experience people are having.
That was their take. They're like, we're not commenting on what is causing this to happen. We're just saying this happens, and prepare yourself. The other thing that they had in there, which I really thought was nice, was the agonal breathing that you talked about, the sort of death rattle where people stop breathing, and it's scary and terrifying. And knowing that it could happen in advance prepare some family members to step out.
Yeah, wasn't there for her final breaths. I had left, and but it was a few hours later, I think, she passed away. But that final gas, I had nightmares on it. It haunted me for a long time. It's just to see somebody you care about like that. It's hard. It's hard, but like I said, in a way, she's just, in a few different ways. Not just that time with the mirror. She's come through to me to show me she's all right. I believe that she's around me as well as my other grandparents and ancestors. There's a reason why they had ancestor worship in primitive cultures. It's the most primitive first kind of religion.
Yeah.
Because I think those people were very tuned and touched with death and, those people and those connections.
Yeah, and they may guide us, depending on what their role is in our lives, whether they're part of our soul group. They may be guides on the other side. There's a lot that we don't know that I would like to have be deeply a part of the way we practice medicine. And it doesn't have to, a lot of people do die in the hospital, but for those who don't and want to stay at home, there's so much beauty that can happen by creating a sacred space.
Right. Most people, nobody wants to die in a hospital. I mean, if somebody given the choice, if they can, they want to die in their bed or in their home. They don't want to be around a bunch of strangers in a cold building. Nobody wants that.
Yeah, agreed. I keep coming back to this idea of an opportunity is probably the central message of the book. One of the things that I notice people don't know how to do is forgive. And I mention it in the book quite a bit because I think there's something to this. The ancient Egyptians talked about this. They said, when you die, now this is probably metaphor, but when you die, you're going to face a great scale and they'll put your heart on the scale. And on the other side, Anubis. Yeah, that's awesome that you know that. On the other side, they put a feather. And in order to continue on into the next phase, your heart has to be as light as a feather. Now, if
they feed your heart to Temet, the ancient crocodile.
The big crocodile, yeah.
Yeah.
If you think about it, if you take it as a metaphor, what does it mean to have your heart as light as a feather? To me, if I just stop and think about that and I just close my eyes and I go within and I feel, what does my heart feel like? If I'm honest with myself, there are things that I regret. There are grievances that I haven't forgiven. There are people that still piss me off when I think about them. There are things that I've done, mistakes that I've done, things that I've said that I wish I didn't. All of those things create a heavy heart. And if there's one thing we can do as we face death, it's to lighten the heart up. And for me, forgiveness and releasing those old grievances, probably the most important thing you can do to
forgiving
prepare
yourself too.
That's probably number one. Yeah, forgive yourself. If we go back to the beginning of this conversation, the context of life is journey of the soul, the spirit, right? Like the evolution
Right.
of spirit. We become better and better souls. If you want to take reincarnation as a context, what's happening in each lifetime? Theoretically, you get better and better. You get closer and closer to source. If that's the context, that we're evolving to something greater or truer, I think fundamentally that inner work of healing, facing those demons within, facing that heaviness in your heart, and forgiving and releasing, that's the core work to do. That's probably the most important thing anyone could do before death.
I didn't have a near-death experience, but what I experienced in my spiritual moment of what I believe is God was all forgiving, all compassion, all love. That's what I felt in that. It's like the warmest hug you could have from somebody. Like most amount of you don't feel anything but love from this presence. That's what I felt, and I think that's what when I've had guests on that talk about their near-death experiences, they talk about this detachment. They see their body broken on the ground and they're not scared. They're not afraid. They're not angry. They're detached from it in a sense because they feel this presence, something calling them, be it the light at the end of the tunnel or a loved one that comes to take them, or tell them it's not their time, usually, when they're in a near-death experience. I think these are key for, I wish more people were aware of these things, in their life. Like I said, but I think that's why death is here, to remind us this isn't it. This isn't all of it. And, we're all connected. You feel it.
Actually, that's a great point, Jason. I feel like if you watch a lot of near-death experience videos or talk to people, I've had some patients who have told me about their experiences. There's usually some teaching that they get that we are all one, or that we're deeply connected in a way that we don't experience here as separate individual beings.
Right.
It's like they see this vast ocean of connection, or that we're part of a big net and we're deeply connected to each other. There's different symbols for that. But it is interesting if you were to assume that we're all deeply connected, then the things we say about other people, the hate, the blame, the attack, there's a part of our mind that remembers that we're one. There's a part of our mind deep down that knows that. And so in my experience, that attack and blame that we put on others gets internalized to be about ourselves. That part of our mind says, oh yeah, if I'm calling him an asshole, I kind of feel that way about myself. If I feel like he doesn't deserve to be forgiven, he did something terrible, he doesn't deserve to be loved, deep down inside, a part of my mind feels that way about myself. And it creates this terrible pain that gets built up over time. But the takeaway is you can actually reverse that. And that's one of the things that I've noticed amazing patients do by themselves. They start to forgive the people that they've hated. They say, actually, they were doing the best they can with what they knew. They are acting out of a place of pain, and there was a call for love. They deserve love. Even though I don't condone their behavior, they're just as deserving as love as anyone else. And then what happens is that part of their mind starts to internalize that about themselves. Then they realize, oh, I deserve love too. And then that's the healing. The healing starts right there.
Oh no, it's a big one. Forgiveness, And I always love that about the Egyptians look at the afterlife. I've always, all my favorite movies have to do with the afterlife. By the way, like Al Brooks Defending Your Life, Beetlejuice. Oh,
that was a good one.
What Dreams May Come. I've always ever since I was a kid.
Classic.
I've had weird experiences ever since I was a little kid. I saw a green floating head fly through the room when I was 4 or 5 years old with my cousin Phil. I talked to my unborn sister. I had weird stuff. Like all this stuff. So I'm different from a lot of people in that sense. That I just accept that there's something much more than this existence beyond us. I don't have any true faith in any one religion or anything. But I do believe in the concept of these stories from our cultures like Egypt or even Christianity with Jesus and dying on the cross is forgive our sins, right? It's all about forgiveness in that story.
Yeah.
The Tibetan Book of the Dead, I have a couple different books, translations and copies of that, death and the afterlife is just something that's always fascinated me, and how ancient cultures looked at it has always fascinated me. They didn't shy away from it. I mean, Buddhists have a tradition of having monks look at a corpse decay as an understanding and acceptance of, that everything's impermanent.
That's amazing. Yeah, that tells you something. When I saw you shaking your head a lot, Jamie, I'm just curious if is that your experience too with the afterlife?
As far as which part?
Oh, just you were nodding your head about Tibetan Book of the
About
Dead.
like being just totally fascinated with other cultures and the way that they treat the dead. And some people, when they bury them, they've got to sit up and their feet have to face a certain way. Their feet face and their head faces. Or in Thailand, they bury them to decompose naturally. Then they dig the bones back up. Yeah, it's and I just really like to learn about all these different things that everybody does, practices.
I used to read the tarot, and people get the death card, right? They're like, oh, but anybody who does tarot knows it's more about transformation and change. It's not about death, but in the end, it's the ultimate transformation. It is death. That is the end. That's when you're going to transform into whatever it is we were before and will be after. It scares everybody, and I will not deny that death still doesn't scare me, because as a parent, I believe in afterlife and a connection to my sons and my wife and all this stuff. At the same time, right now, I want to live this life, and I don't want to be disconnected from them. So I got something to live for and fight for.
Yeah.
Like I said, I get down to the end of this road, and I've lived a good long life, and my family's there. That's when I'm really say, okay, death, I'm ready. If I can make it there, I'll be a happy, happy camper. And it's not that way for everybody. But to me, that if I can get there, I will be truly grateful. No matter what happens in between that time or whatever, if I can get there and see my kids at the end of that road, I'm good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hear you, Jason. In my experience, probably the majority of people that have died don't expect it. They don't know it's going to happen. Yeah, and they're not ready for it. Which is why one of the things that I share a lot in the book is to not wait. To not wait. If you knew you were going to die, how would you transform internally? How would you transform your relationships with others? You'd be more real. That happens every time I'm in a family conference or family meeting. Everyone just drops the pretense. They drop.
Like I said, they drop the bullshit.
Yeah, exactly.
The only time I'm allowing cussing on it tonight, because I always say that about death. The bullshit is dropped.
It all falls away, and then the truth comes out. The feelings that were hidden come out, and they get released. They need to be released in the way that they are, and everyone's real with each other. And what my invitation is to those listening, I guess, is why wait? You don't know when death's going to happen. Last week, I had a 34-year-old woman, 3 kids. One of them was an infant. Had a massive brain bleed. Massive. Like, game over for her. Her husband, also 30s. They got married. They had kids. It's like that's someone that did not plan for this.
Yeah, it's horrible. That's
just
devastating.
don't know. You don't know.
I've seen it. I've seen what it does to families when you lose somebody that young and a mom that young. I've seen what it does. It's horrible. Yeah. And it's tremendous, and it's hard for people to find meaning in that, and I totally get that. It's hard for people to, get past that grief. It'll last decades, with somebody that young and a mom, and it's going to affect those children. Death, like I said, it has its way of changing things, but it's a destructive force as well, and there's just no words for somebody in that situation.
Yeah, there's a terrible.
I have nothing to say, but I'm sorry, and I couldn't do the job you do.
I guess I didn't say that to be a downer, because
no, not at all. No, it's the truth of the situation. It's the truth of the situation you have to face. That You know, death can come at any time. That's what you're saying, and that's what people have to understand. You know, tomorrow could be your ticket, and you have no idea.
Yeah.
You know, another favorite show of mine that only got one season. Only got one season. Can anybody guess in the chat room? What's my favorite show? It was shared by Art Bell as well. Anybody? Think about that. Well, I'll give you time before we come from back from commercial break because we're in a commercial break. Can anybody think it was an Art Bell favorite one? It only had one season. Well, I think it always shows 2 seasons if you go look at it. But honestly, I think it only had really 1 season and they canceled it. See, nobody. I'll wait. I'll see if anybody gets it in the chat room when I come back. No? Okay. I'll give you a hint. Somebody dies by a toilet seat from space. Ah, she got it. Or he got it. Drake got it. Hey, he already got it. Dead like me. Dead like me. Yeah, one of the main character, she dies from a toilet seat from the International Space Station. Like it's an odd, crazy death. But you know, that's the Reapers. That's the show, and the way people buy it, you know, are crazy ways in this show. But it's just what I love about it. I think is it reminds you that your ticket could be anytime. Seize your life, seize the day, as they say, right? Well, we're going to commercial break, and when we come back, if you're all right with it, Adam. We're going to open up the phone lines. If anybody wants to share with you tonight their experiences too, I'd love it. Call in and join us tonight on that. We're going to open the phone lines after the commercial break if you want to call in. So just wait till we come back for commercial, and we'll talk with our guest, Dr. Adam Rizvi. Am I getting that right? Have I been butchering it all night?
Rizvi. See, I'm the butcher of names, man.
Be honored.
It's all good.
He's the author of Love Does Not Know Death, Stories of Death, Dying, and Miracles of True Forgiveness. When we come back from the short commercial break.
Into the combined effects of sensory deprivation and hallucinatory drugs. The subject of the experiment is himself, and the experiment is out of control. Ken Russell's Altered States, a film that must not be missed, is in the West End now. Altered States, Certificate X.
Do you wish for more paranormal and spiritual content? The Paranormal Chronicles magazine is a free digital magazine crammed with the very best in paranormal and spiritual articles and features. No sign-up, no subscription, just free reading and knowledge for you. Read today at www.paranormalchronicles.com/magazine.
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your hosts Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do Voices from Beyond, the Cold Case Files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
Paranation Magazine is a new paranormal magazine based out of Denver, Colorado. Our goal isn't just to give you the best paranormal content out there, but to promote paranormal unity. We're doing this by giving everyone an opportunity to tell their stories and to share their experiences. For more information, follow us on Facebook at Paranation Magazine and soon, paranationmag.com.
I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like is the extraordinary travels of a young, alone, and broke psychic in the highly anticipated new book from internationally renowned psychic, medium, medical intuitive, and best-selling author Sherry Dillard. Critics have described I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like as an engrossing memoir, an empowering story of how a broken girl came to accept her psychic gift. A refreshing and fun read, I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like is available through Amazon, Kindle, Barnes & Noble, and wherever books are sold.
Wrote Spirits of the Dead with a pen dipped in warm blood. You will see the ultimate in terror with this important all-star cast. Brigitte Bardot, Alain Delon, Jane Fonda, Terence Stamp, and Peter Fonda in Edgar Allan Poe's Spirits of the Dead. Only Poe's demented genius could bring to the screen such horror and evil. Spirits of the Dead stars Brigitte Bardot, Alain Delon, Jane Fonda, Terence Stamp, and Peter Fonda. Directed by three masters of the cinema, Federico Fellini, Louis Malle, and Roger Vadim. Spirits of the Dead is an adventure in terror beyond your wildest nightmares. Spirits of the Dead in color is rated R.
I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. Attack ships on fire off the shoulder of Orion. I watched sea beams glitter in the dark near the 10-house gate. All those moments will be lost in time. Like tears in rain. Time to die.
You're listening to Paranormal Soup, bringing you the weird every Sunday night. Call into the show and join the discussion. The call-in lines are 219-230-4444 or 260-225-9419 or by Skype caller ID oojblandoo or jblandparanormalsoup. Soup. And now to your host, Jason Bland.
Tonight's guest is Dr. Adam Rizvi. He's the author of Love Does Not Know Death. Story is of death, dying, and the miracles of true forgiveness. He's a critical care physician from the worked in the ICU. He kept a journal of over 500 deaths that he experienced. People who died before his eyes. He experienced their last moments with their families. And there are miracles and phenomena that happen around this, but also things, deeper than that. How it changes people. Like I said, death is the ultimate transformation, right? Not just for the person that's dying, but I think for those involved. And tonight, you can tell us your stories, your experience, if you so happen to want to join us. The phone lines are going to be open here in just a second. Call in. Have you had something when somebody's passed away happen that changed you? Even if it's not paranormal, if you want to share tonight, join us. The lines are now open. 219-230-4444 is the main line to call in. Making sure they're open here. It says I'm not disturbed. Yes, okay. Lines are open. Sometimes I miss it. Try calling again. If I got somebody else on the line, it will take you to voicemail. Just try calling back when they get off the line. But let's go ahead and get back to our guest. Thank you, Dr. Adam, for sticking with us. Is it all right if I call you Dr. Adam?
Oh, totally. Many do.
So I don't butcher your last name all night long?
Yeah. You can call me Adam, too, just regular Adam.
Okay. Well, Adam, thank you for staying up late here with us tonight and talking about this. This is, your book. People check it out. It's available on Amazon right now. Love Does Not Know Death. This is, it's not everybody's favorite topic. I get that. Some people really, it can stir the memories of these instances. Yeah. And I get that. But if you want to share tonight, guys, the lines are open. I'll get the banner up here too. 219-230-4444, 260-225-9419. There's also was Skype. Now I guess it's Microsoft, jblandoo, or Paranormal Soup, jbland. Those are the ways to call in. Lines are open. All right, so some of the, I don't know if you, I don't want you to give the whole book away, obviously, but I don't know if you have some particular experiences tonight you want to share.
Yeah. Oh, there's several. Actually, before I do that, I just was reading the comments, if I may. I just wanted to
Yeah, sure.
Comment on some of the comments. Someone said something about pets and animals. I just wanted to say that there's so much to say there, but the same sort of terminal lucidity happens with pets as well. And there's also this interesting phenomenon which relates to your first question about experiences. The timing of death is not a coincidence. I have yet to see a death that is coincidental. There's two things that I tended to see a lot in the hundreds of deaths that I've seen. One is, I'll share with you an example. Just several months ago, actually, I had a family. It was a very large Hispanic family in Southern California. We have a lot of that demographic. It was about 20 people, and we were doing everything we could to not have as many in the rooms in the ICU because it becomes a fire hazard. But that's kind of how the family is, and they have a loved one who's connected to the life support machine, intubated, in a coma, and they're theoretically they have multi-organ failure and they're going to die within hours. Yeah. And for days they had around the clock people in the room. This was in the middle of the night. I was on a late night shift, and it was down to 5 people in the room, which is probably the least it gets. And the patient's blood pressure was pretty solid, low but solid. Heart rate was normal. Oxygen levels were good. There's no indicator that they were going to go. At around 2 or 3, someone in their family, I was just outside the hallway working on some notes. Someone in the family says, I'm going to go get some coffee from downstairs, and you can pick up some Coke from the vending machine. All of them to say, yeah, let's go and get some coffee. They all get up and go. It's down the hall. It is not far away. They were gone for 2 minutes, maybe at most. In that brief window, the patient dies. Heart rate just plummets, goes to 0. Alarms go off. The family comes rushing in, but the patient's gone. Absolutely gone. Yeah. I've seen that happen. Now, I also have seen the corollary. I've seen family members die holding on, but there's someone from Germany that needs to fly in. Right. And as soon as they get the tarmac, they enter into the door, they make eye contact, or they hold their hand, and then the patient goes.
Like I said, there's certain people that are meant to be there at that moment. Like it's prearranged, this part.
That's what I was bringing up earlier. I had a friend's grandmother who wanted to see this grandchild born so bad. She was terminal. She should have gone, weeks ago, but the pregnant mother was late. She had the baby. They went into the room. Grandma got to hold, they put it on her. She smiled. They walked out of the room. Within 5 minutes, she was gone.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
I hear that there were, people like the person. It happens,
a lot
either
of
people waiting for the person to get there, or they don't want the family. Like Debbie here said that they don't want the family to experience it, and they wait till they have left. I think like my grandmother waited till I think it was just her and my mom together, and that's when she went, if I remember right. But I mean, even with pets, I'm a big Doctor Who fan, and guy, there was an actor, I can't think of his name, sorry, he played Captain Jack in Doctor Who, and he had a little doggy named Captain Jack, and he was just saw this video recently. He was at a Comic-Con, and he got on video, and he's got the dog in his arms. He's like, I'm sorry if I wasn't myself at the Comic-Con. I was rushing to get home because I knew his time was coming, and he waited to die in my arms.
Oh.
And I'm like, I'm getting teary-eyed just now even repeating that story, because it was him and his partner. And his partner's like, he's like, all right, it's all right, and he's just like holding the dog, giving this video out because he's like, I wasn't myself at the Comic-Con because I knew he would wait for me. And that's the thing, I mean, even pets, like I had this, we lost both our first dogs weeks apart from each other during COVID, during the lockdowns. You want to hear what's crazy is that I dreamt of my first dog's passing a year before it happened. And I wrote the dream off. I knew she was getting elderly. And I was going to have to face it. And when I had the dream, I thought it was just some kind of psychological, I know it's coming. I even told my boss, who, him and his husband are, they don't have kids, they're gay. They have fur babies, so we talk about our dogs. I had mentioned I had this dream. I'm like, oh, Bella's getting old. Well, a year later, the reason I wrote the dream off is that she was being put down outside behind the vet clinic. I'm like, why would they do that? They don't do that. I didn't know about COVID coming.
Oh, interesting.
And everything was going to be locked down, and they made us go outside to put her down. It was a beautiful sunset, and it happened just like the dream. I knew at the moment we walked around the corner, and I'm like, oh, my God, I've dreamt this. This is the dream. And it happened just like it did in the dream. My sons had to come because we had no one to take them to because of the lockdowns. And Liam put this little flower up to her head just like he did in the dream that he had picked. And it was beautiful. I couldn't ask for a more beautiful passing for her. Wow. But I saw it all a year before. Wow. So even your pet's passing, like I said, there's a time and a place. We might have different. I don't believe in total predestination. I believe we do have choices to make. Roads to choose. But in some sense, we have so many possible endings, and there's some plan to that. I think.
That's a beautiful story, Jason. Yeah, pets are quite special, and the timing is quite interesting. I also, one of the things that I have noticed is this. One of the things that I tell patients, I used to not say this until it's happened multiple times, where patients are comatose for a long time, and then they wake up, and then they say, "Oh, I heard everything that you said."
Right. Oh, yeah.
Even though there's no indication that there was any brainwave activity or anything,
right.
There's some presence, some awareness that's there. So even though the doctors may say, well, no, they're unconscious or they're in a coma or they're not aware of you, what I have started to say the last couple of years to family members is, even though it looks like they're unresponsive, assume they can hear you,
right,
and tell them always what you need to tell them. Tell them you love them. And I'll sometimes share with them the stories of patients, who wake up and they say, I heard everything. So I tell them, I genuinely don't know, but assume that they can hear you and tell them everything. Tell them you love them, that they're free to go, and that you forgive them for everything, because this is what brings about the healing.
Yeah. I mean, why not assume? I mean, if for anybody that believes in an afterlife, I believe even now, people with like Alzheimer's, like my grandmother had, even though she couldn't consciously, physically be there with us, there's some sense, I feel like they are, who they truly wholly are is there at that moment. Like, even though they're not dead, their spirit is there. You know what I'm saying? They can hear. There's some understanding is what I think.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. If you look at the NDE literature in surgery, actually, this guy named Sam Parnia has really done a great amount of work. He's in New York. He's studied cardiac arrest-related near-death experiences.
Yeah.
Patients will be above their body during surgery. They'll see things. They'll hear things. And it is fascinating, because then people who are in general surgery, they are deeply anesthetized, so much so that the brain is off. Like, there is no electrical activity. If you were to put an EEG, it would be isoelectric, or very minimal brainwave activity. And yet they're having rich visual experiences, auditory experiences, and they wake up and they tell you about these. To me, it's one of those indicators that conscious experience occurs independent of the brain functioning in the way that we think it does.
Another big fan of one of my favorite movies is Flatliners. Did you ever see that from the 90s?
I haven't, no.
Julia Roberts, Kevin Bacon, one of the Baldwin brothers, I always forget which one. But it's about med students who basically induce near-death experiences.
Oh, this sounds familiar. Yeah.
They made a remake, but the original, Kiefer Sutherland. That's another one that's in it, And of course, all of it is when they do it, they're almost like haunted by it, by the experience, because it like brings up all the old regrets, and like they're almost like ghosts that are haunting them, like these regrets, these things that happened from like their childhood and stuff like that. Like, yeah, it's a great movie, Flatliners.
If we could briefly go back to, I'm not speaking from a position of being a Buddhist, but let's go back to the Tibetan Book of the Living or Tibetan Book of the Dying. I've read it in the distant past, but one thing I do remember is they have the term bardo, which means between, the between state. And one of the things they talk about is in that book, your thoughts get projected as reality. Like if there's something that you're afraid of, it will manifest in front of you. And I always found that very fascinating.
Me too.
And then it sort of begs the question of, well, isn't a form of that also happening right now? Right? We deal with these inner fears. It just doesn't get projected out into this reality, but it's in the inner mind. We can see it if we want to see it. And then there's all this training, at least in the Tibetan Buddhist literature, about what to do when you face these fears on the other side, and how to heal, see through the illusion of the fears, and then become enlightened in that in-between state. But one of the big takeaways from the Tibetan Book of the Dead is you can do that work now. You can start now. You can face those.
Right. Well, that's the whole point of the book. That was the whole point of the book, is I guide you before that point. Yeah. That's why, biggest probably if I had to choose one of my favorite all time of those movies in the range of afterlife movies is What Dreams May Come. And in that, Robin Williams, he learns you paint your own reality. He uses paint as a metaphor in it, but his wife commits suicide, and she goes to hell, but not really. It's her own created hell, because she thinks that's where she's supposed to go. You wonder a lot of times when people have these, most near-death experiences you hear are usually, tunnel of light, family members, peaceful place, and those are great. But you do get some of these where some people describe hell.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not a person that particularly believes in what I experience of an all-loving God that sends people to hell, right? But I do believe we manifest our reality too. And maybe so much so more on the other side, to the fact that we might create our own hell, our own afterlife.
Certainly seems like that could be the case. Yeah.
And I think for some people, that fear of death for things they've done probably comes to them at that time.
Yeah, 100%. I would think so too. Yeah.
Like I said, I'm not a big proponent of that idea of hell. The
takeaway is the work can be done now, and that's really related to that idea that we were talking about earlier. Is you don't know, so start the healing work now. And if I can, and this might be presumptuous, but if there's anyone listening to this and really, really feeling it, I would say pick one thing in your life that you just haven't been able to let go, something that you haven't forgiven yourself for or forgiven someone else for. If there's just one thing, focus on that and see if you can do some work. See if you can forgive that, heal that. If there's just one more thing today that you can do that brings about healing, I would say this conversation will have been worth it.
Yeah, it's about letting go. I mean, at some point, it's over. When you're gone, all that's over. It doesn't matter anymore. It's dust. It's history. If it's a regret or if it's something you wronged somebody or somebody wronged you, what does it matter anymore? It's a new journey. Yeah. I think that's why you hear a lot of times the detachment when people talk about their near-death experience. There's some innate higher self of us. Not for everyone, I don't know. But I think for a lot of us, when we pass over, you connect to that higher self that realizes, oh, yeah. Like my grandfather might have said, life's a joke, or, like you realize that it don't take it so seriously. It's not about all that stuff.
That's such a good takeaway. Yeah, we do take life very seriously. We can live it in a lighthearted way. There's a lot of heaviness, and I don't mean to minimize the pain and suffering that people go through. But a lot of people with near-death experiences, they feel that lightheartedness. They feel the love beneath and through all of the pain.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I've had near-death experience people on this show, and I mean, for some of them, it's given them a huge freedom. They really don't fear it. They don't. They're ready for their time when it comes. I mean, I can't say I'm that way. I do believe in afterlife, but like I said, I don't want it to come. Not anytime soon. I want to be an old man.
Yeah.
Get the most. I'm gonna squeeze the most out of this life as I can. I think that should be most people's hopes to do, right?
I saw something that Jamie just shared that reminded me of an exercise that I offer at the end of chapter 1, which is I imagine myself almost every night I go to bed. I imagine that, and this might sound morbid, but I imagine like, okay, I'm on my deathbed. Like, this is it. I'm taking my last few breaths, and I'm not gonna wake up into the same life. I'm gonna die tonight, right? And it's not every night, but most nights I do that.
I hope not. I hope you don't do that to yourself every night. That's too much.
No.
But,
like,
But I've had that thought. I've actually done that too.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's a good thing to do on occasion to really get perspective. And what happens is when I take that on, it suddenly becomes clear to me the things that I've still been holding on to, and then I make a concerted effort in my mind to just let it go. And I feel like my heart does this. It just sort of lets go, and it gives everything space to be and breathe. And there's no need for me to fix it. What was that?
To make room.
Make room, yeah,
just
totally make room, exactly. And I feel like this sort of lightness of being comes on, and I make a prayer for everyone that I felt hurt me, or that I feel like I hurt, and I feel like I'm able to just balance the books in a way and come to a place of peace. So if today was the day, and if tonight was the night, I would go peacefully.
You would feel right, yeah. I like to even add visuals to it. One thing, when I was younger, I would sit at the beach and write the stuff down at the bottom, in the sand. So I would visually watch the waves come up and take it away.
Oh, wow.
And that was the most cleansing feeling by the end. I would just write little things all the way up. So as the tide came up, there it went. And I'm not by the beach anymore. I still go out there, but when I'm here, I do use the moon in my beliefs, my spirituality. I do a lot of moon work, and the full moon is kind of a letting go moon, and you let go of what you don't need to bring to the next phase with you. And so I'll bring something to symbolize as I'm out there, like incense or a smudge stick, as I'm letting it go to the universe or to God or the higher powers. I'm watching the smoke, my letting go, carry up to the universe or the moon, and that the visualization just feels like it's adding more intent and
100%.
a lot.
Well, thank you, Jamie. I think I might use that. I love the wave visualization and the smoke too. All right, I'm going to try that tonight.
My thing, my kind of ritual at night is I always try to tell God things I'm grateful for.
Ah, what a great ritual!
Life.
Yeah.
Because it's just to give myself perspective. Like you can whine and grump about these stupid little things, but you should be very grateful, for the things I do have, which are awesome. I have a great wife, I have great kids, roof over my head, people I love to work with, And if I don't have things to be so grateful for, I need to look for them, look harder. That's what I always tell myself. But I don't have to look too hard. Luckily, in my life, I'm very grateful for my life.
That's a great ritual. Yeah.
Because otherwise, the person I was maybe 10 years ago was hard to. I was so stressed out and worried all the time, and I still worry about crap all the time. But I'm much more comfortable in my own skin and realize I have it pretty damn good.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
So, and I think that's what death can do for people too. You know, it puts that's put mainly in perspective what you have, how precious the life and the relationships you have with the people around you, how precious in that time is precious. You are in a clock. It is ticking down. There is a time and a date for all of us.
Yeah,
you know, it could
it
be
is
tomorrow.
interesting. Death makes us realize how limited our time is, and yet it's also an invitation to that which is eternal within
The undiscovered country. Yeah, you know what's going to be out there. You know what's beyond the future for us and our soul. You know, it's the next journey. You know. And that's what I always say. You know, I watched. I'm sorry, I'm a sci-fi fantasy geek. I watch a lot of TV, read a lot of that stuff, or did when I had time. And I like my favorite shows have to do with the afterlife in some place. Right now, I'm rewatching with my 10-year-old The Good Place. That's hilarious comedy. Yeah, I love that one.
Comedy.
Especially one of them being an ethics professor.
Yeah.
Check it out.
That's cheating, right?
Cheaty. Oh, my stomach. But no, we just rewatched again a show that was on just recently, sci-fi, called Upload.
Oh, that's the VR one, right?
Well, yeah, there's a lot of VR in it, but in it, they basically like zap somebody's head to dust, whatever, and it captures their consciousness, supposedly, and it puts them into a like a virtual afterlife that's created. And one of the characters, she's trying to get her father to go into this. Like, dad, she works for them just so she can get the discount because her dad's dying, or she thinks he's dying, whatever. And he's like, well, I don't want to go there. Why would I want to go there? My wife died. I want to go where she went. You know, like, and I thought that was so beautiful in that show. Like, her dad was like, yeah, this is all cool. You got all this technology. You can do this and put me in here and I could live forever. But no, I'm going where my wife went.
Wow.
And it's a funny show, and it scares me about the future. And you see now, what my point about that show, though, is like I don't think you can just take the soul and put it into a machine.
Yeah.
And in the show, they have copies of them. So that means they're old. The original character you see in the show is dead. Yeah. Went on somewhere else. Whatever you're seeing is some AI representation of somebody. And we're doing that now. We're I've seen there's companies now that are starting to work on AI replication. Suzanne Summers' husband has done this. Made an AI replicant of her. I don't know how healthy that is. You know, I mean, like, they're a copy. It's an AI replication. I guess it's like technically like a... I mean, it'd be like having the holodeck, I guess, in Star Trek. I'm a Trekkie fan, too, you know, where they have people in that. But once your loved one, you're going to AI recreate them. I'm afraid they're going to try to sell to people like digital afterlife, like Upload. Like, that's not the digital... It's a copy. It's not you. You know?
Yeah, it's a copy. It's not... Exactly. I mean, if you want to talk about soul and spirit, then that's not digitized.
Yeah, I don't think there can be a ghost in the machine, you know. I don't think that, you know. Now, they might hook your brain up to put it in a jar, you know, maybe, and hook it up and put you in there like you're in some kind of Matrix horrible thing. But why would you want to do that? Don't do that. Don't do that. Like, don't you want to see what the next journey is? That's the question, you know, like, you know, good, like, I used to love the Anne Rice novels and stuff, like the vampires. Like, get the choice. Could be immortal, live forever. But don't you miss out? Like, if you had that choice, like Adam, right now, I could tell you, like, here, I can give you this. You're going to live forever. Would you take it?
Yeah, that'd be a hard pass.
Right? Because you're going to miss out. You miss out on that journey. And anybody who passed before you. But there's some scientists now speculate we could find a way for immortality. For the rich. You know, that's what'll happen. But it'll be for the rich. But I was saying, if we did get that in society, that ability for immortality, do we take it? When there's this whole other, you know, destiny that should have us of, you know, going somewhere else or changing this transformation. Do we accept that and go on? Or do we go the transhumanist route and hook our brains into jars and keep it going? You know, that I'm afraid humanity might make that choice.
Yeah, no comment there, but we'll see how things unfold.
You know, you can't blame people for wanting to, like, in this show, like one of the people they upload is a kid, the parents. I'm a parent. I would want to do anything in my power to keep my child. You can't blame people for doing that. But I'm afraid, like I said, there's cloning and all this other stuff too down the line. People are like, oh, just make a clone of you.
Yeah.
It's like humans are doing a lot of things. We're getting really, really technologically advanced, and surviving. The human biological nature is to survive. We're going to look for ways to cheat death, right? And do we, are we going to ever reach that point in society? We're going to like, yes, I'm going to do that. I'm going to put my brain in a jar, and you can just hook me up to the Matrix, and I'll never have to go face that death thing, But honestly, I think it's an important thing, and at some point, everybody's got to get there. I don't believe in the transhumanist movement and digital immortality or whatever they want to do, turn us into robots. I don't know, but that could be a future we're facing.
Yeah, it could be.
It
certainly could be.
It could be overpopulation, but I don't know. But like I said, the people that we get will be the rich, and then they can have their Matrix, I guess. We'll move on. Now, we talked about a lot of these stories tonight too. People having that. Have you seen, or I heard, like Jamie said, saw light, like physical manifestations that happen sometimes during these.
Yeah, I have. I've seen moments where either right before we see vital sign changes with the heart rate, I've seen lights form above patient's head that most people can see. I've had several nurses corroborate with me that they see something as well. Yeah. Maybe it's like a whirlpool of lights around their head, or I've seen portals. It just looked like circular doorways, and I've seen balls of light, wisps of light coming out of the the chest or the forehead. Or the crown. It's all sorts of different ways of that. I've also seen or had an experience of patients dying and then the lights dim, or the lights get bright, like the whole room.
Yeah. I've heard of this too.
A lot of lighting changes.
For my mom,
people see
the light flickered.
Really. When your dad passed.
When my dad, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've heard of all these stories over the years from different people, and amazing things like this happening, and people seeing the lights. Especially, I've heard that countless times. People seeing the light over somebody's head. For myself, I have weird visual things where I can see auras around people, and I see lights that'll come out in and out of people's heads, not dying, But I've never been there physically. Like I said, I'd left, and my grandmother died a few hours later after I left. I've never been there physically for somebody's actual death to know if I'd see that. But I've seen it, people walking around daily. So I don't know. But so when I hear it, when people see that in that moment, I'm like, oh, yeah, I've seen that. But I see that all the time. So I wonder if this is something that happens in that moment that opens everybody's perception to it.
Oh, yeah, it's possible. You seem to be, from everything you've said so far tonight, it seems like you have a intuitive ability or some sort of visual ability, seeing that translucent boy or your future son.
Yeah. Like I said, I've had experiences since I was a child. I've seen and heard things that other people don't usually see. I don't call myself a psychic or medium. I don't do any of that. Like I said, I read some tarot back in the day.
Yeah.
But I'm open to it and the idea of it. I call it the Force. Star Wars. Sorry. But I talk to my kids about this. I'm open with my kids about these experiences, and like that's why I do this show. Is we have to talk. We have to openly talk, but not be afraid to talk about these experiences we all are having. It shouldn't be frowned upon or shunned or, it's just grief. When it comes to death, no. These are true experiences people have, and we can understand so much more about our own lives and reality if we just talk about these things.
Yeah.
May I ask, what did the portals look like when you would see a portal type
Yeah, it honestly it was one experience, and it was back when I was in Arizona, but it was above a patient's head, and the nurse next to me, um, her and I both saw it. It was a round circle that looked like a whirlpool, like when water is draining a sink. It has that sort of swirling shape, but instead of water, obviously, it was just swirls of light, and it was above the patient's head.
Were they multicolored lights?
It just looked white to me.
Or just white? Okay.
But I will say I'm not gifted like many. I've heard people see brilliant colors and shapes and things. I rarely see that. But the few times I have seen visual phenomenon, it's been, brief moments of lights and different types of things like that.
Now, you worked in the ICU. Do you think... one of the things I've always wondered is in a place like that, because I grew up, my mom was a respiratory therapist for like 17
interesting.
years. She did a lot of in-home therapy and stuff like that. And she, when I was just a little guy, I don't know, I was very young, she went to see this psychic. She actually went with a friend, and I know I get the story wrong. Sorry, Mom. Sometimes I'm just trying to remember what she's told me about it. But she went to this psychic, and the psychic wanted to talk to her, not her friend, even though she didn't go there or something like that. But she told my mom all kinds of stuff that was, it's crazy, the stuff that this lady just knew. She had no idea who my mom was. But she told her about patients. She would name patients my mom worked with and telling her family was thanking her for helping them in their, towards their end. Most of these people were dying of lung cancer she was helping. So, she had that experience. But, I always wondered, because that same hospital that she worked at, our first apartment was across from that hospital, and that apartment was haunted. But I swear there's one thing that happened, I swear came from that hospital, because it was the corner that faced the hospital of our bedroom, and this kind of faintly glowing light came into our room from that corner. Me and my wife both could see it, and we could see like translucent faces. And I told my wife, I think that's coming from the hospital. I don't think it's just this house. That hospital is now torn down. It's where I was born. It's called St. Anthony's. And they now have a new St. Anthony's hospital on another location. But it was there for 100 years or more.
Wow.
And they built on, and then eventually they just were like, okay, it's totally a mess now. Tear it all down, right? But, I even worked in that hospital for a bit of time. And I just wonder, you would like to, as a paranormal investigator, I have EVP evidence of confused spirits. Do you think that sometimes there isn't always a transition for some people, that they are stuck or left behind or confused? Because as a paranormal investigator, you run into this in certain cases, and I've always wondered with hospitals too. That if they're stuck or confused somewhere, it could be at a hospital. Where they died. Does that happen? Does not everybody have somebody there to guide them, or they're just so heavy-hearted about something that it adds that to the confusion?
Yeah, I definitely think the amount of death that happens in the hospital, that just, it's so much that there's got to be
an open portal. I think death leaves an open portal. I mean, I've had it where people had no paranormal activity in their house. A family member dies in the house, not in any tragic way. Not that death isn't tragic, as in a sense, but in the sense that they died of old age or whatever. But in the house, and then they have all this paranormal activity start. And one of the things is we theorize is that a death in a home leaves a doorway open sometimes. Now, can I prove that? No, I can't. There's nothing away. This is what psychics and mediums will tell you sometimes, and what and you can do things to sage or clean or try to close that portal, but that death can leave an open doorway. And you got to think, in a hospital where all these people have passed away, that door's got to be just wide open there.
I've also seen certain rooms have patients die frequently, and it's almost like
we have a jail. Well, I have a jail. Yeah. I was a cop, and for a very small time, but there's a jail cell in the old that they had, that if you put somebody in there, it's a good chance they're not going to be alive in the morning.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I've heard this about hospital rooms too. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that's made me think
No,
about
it's
that.
fine. Yeah. We had a room in the corner of the ICU that in my last hospital, for some reason, almost every patient that went there died. Now, when I say it that way, it might seem like, okay, there's something about the room that is causing it. But I've also had the thought of maybe patients sort of self-select on an unconscious level.
Maybe, yeah.
And they know that there's something about that room that will facilitate
the doorways open the most in that room.
Yeah.
It draws that person to it. It's just like you hear about like in hospice or nursing homes where they have like cats or dogs and that, or like the cat. I've heard multiple stories of a cat will tell you when the person's passing because they go and lay in that room.
Yeah,
like the animals know.
The animals know. Yeah, that's true.
I mean, it could be just chemical releases in the body happening from breaking down and dying that moment that the animal could smell it or whatever. But I think it's energy.
Yeah.
That they're sensitive to. The energy changes. You can feel it in a room when somebody's passing.
Yeah. Well, Jamie's got a cat back there, and I'm sure.
Oh, she's my cat lady.
Cat's got a intuitive sense about things. Cats and dogs. I mean, I feel like animals are very, very sensitive.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I got a 9-year-old cat. I'm just like, I can't believe she's still ticking away. But, yeah, it's crazy how it goes. I will let you go for the night. I know you got early morning ahead of you. I want to thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. It's been a true honor. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah,
and
you both have been amazing hosts.
I want you to get out any information you want to get to the guests or to the audience tonight from your book. Where I know they can find it on Amazon, but any website information or you have a podcast as well.
Oh yeah. The podcast is more just me chatting with my friend Steve. It's called Letters to the Sky. We chat about spiritual topics. If you're interested in the book, just go to lovedoesnotknowdeath.com or find the book on Amazon. And I also write about my experiences in the hospital, all the lessons that I learn with the patients that I see pretty regularly on Substack. You can find me at adamrizvi.substack.com. That's probably the easiest way to stay in touch with me because I post there often. And I thank you, Jason and Jamie. You both have been amazing. And I've gone deeper into this material than I ever have with folks. So I appreciate you asking the right questions.
Oh, I'm glad. I'm always trying. Gavin, love Gavin Lee Davies. He's been a friend of mine for 10 years of doing this show. He's one of the first big guests I ever had on 10 years ago. And he always gives me talking points. It's not that I look at them and all that, but what I do is I have a conversation with somebody, like me and you just got down to sit down to talk about your book, like we're having coffee, because that's what I'm doing, I'm drinking coffee. That's what I do. I like to have that conversation and get deep, and I thank you so much for coming on and sharing with us tonight.
No, I'm grateful, and I'm sorry I got to get up early tomorrow morning, but I just want to say the last thing for anyone that's listening, there's someone that wants you to tell them that you love them, and there's something for you to forgive, and maybe it's yourself. I would just say go for it and do it today, do it tomorrow.
Yeah, because you don't know when your ride is up when the clock is ticked to the final moment. You never tomorrow seize the day.
That's true.
I hope we all get to live long old lives, all of us here, and that's my dream. Like I said, if I get to live to be an old man and I got my family and friends around me, whoever is left, I make it that far, I will be happy to meet death there, and I'll be ready to join. But until then, stay away. It's been great. I thank you so much, Adam, and keep in touch. You get another book out, let me know. I'd love to have you back on the show.
I would love that. Thanks, guys.
All right, guys, that's it for the show. We will be back next Sunday, same bat time, same bat channel, with our guest Tim Malone. We're going to be talking about his book, Behind the Veil, one man's journey into opioid addiction and spirituality and beyond. Next Sunday, 10 p.m. Central, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific time. Check us out on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Don't forget to follow and subscribe. Thank you to our Patreons and to our YouTube channel members. You guys do definitely help pay the bills for this show. Thank you so much for that. Any donations people make, thank you again. Don't forget to share out the show and tell people Paranormal Soup is where the weird happens live every Sunday night. Thank you guys. Have a great night. See you next Sunday.
Thank you.